Melissa, Henry, Melissa, please kind of hand those back quicker than what you have been doing the last couple of days. I should give them to Nico, and Nico would be faster at handing those out.
Step up your game.
All right, guys, we'll warm up here. We talked a little bit, and there were none of these on the homework yesterday, but we showed you a couple examples. This is where we are going with this stuff. These are called completing the square. And guess whose job it is to complete the square? No. Yours, yours, and yours. You guys have to complete the square. I see a lot of talent out there.
Oh yeah.
Did you know? Nope. Not a good motivation.
You
have potential. Okay. This is where we're going with this stuff. You guys are going to have to complete the square. Eventually, your equations are going to look like this. Once they get like this, we can solve them. Everybody, how do we get rid of the quantity of something being squared? Get rid of that squared. What do we do?
Square root of 2x plus 5 equals 10.
Nice try, but your memory's not good. You're way too young to have bad memory. All right, everybody, show taking the square root of both sides. And the square root of x plus 5 quantity squared, those two things kind of eliminate. I'm going to go over here with it because we saw we didn't have much space there. And then, guys, what do we write down on that right side? We take the square root of both sides of the equation.
10.
No!
1,000. I don't know.
Square root
I thought it was 10, so that was my first one.
Square root
One of the girls that's paying attention, please.
Okay.
I don't think they're
Okay. Sean, say something.
Cuban, seriously.
100. 1 million.
Guys, you're really starting to aggravate me.
Okay. What, 10's the right
The square
answer?
root of
Yeah, I
10.
thought it was 10.
Square root of 100 is 10.
Oh, what?
Oh.
Oh.
Plus or minus 10. Close it now, please, Nico. Yes. Take good notes.
Oh, I remember this.
Guys, whenever, listen, you have to get through your thick skulls. When you take the square root of both sides, you need to account for the positive and the negative number when you take the square root of 100. Okay, now we subtract 5 from both sides, and that's where you got to, in your head, you got to take 10 minus 5 and negative 10 minus 5.
15 or 5.
Okay? Olson does not care about negative signs, that's why.
Negative 15
Okay.
or 5.
5 or negative 15. Box. That's why there's two answers. It's quadratic. Okay? Try that next one as well.
Can I walk you through it?
Square root of both sides.
Plus minus 11. Yay.
X minus 3 equals plus or minus 11.
Good job, Kev.
Add 3 to both sides. Cuban, what are the answers?
X equals 14 and x equals negative 8.
Or negative 8. Very good. Okay? This is where we're eventually going to be tomorrow and or Monday. We don't have class Friday. We don't have class Monday either. So it's either tomorrow or Tuesday.
What's Monday?
Yeah, why not?
Park testing, you only have first and second
Oh,
period.
Monday's my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Nico.
But Monday is his birthday.
All right,
You have birthday at
here we go.
Park testing. It's
Now, we've learned that we can solve quadratic equations several different ways.
hopefully not.
The first way you guys learned was by factoring. We can solve these by factoring. Sometimes they don't factor though, so we can't use factoring. Sometimes it doesn't work all the time. Graphing, never, ever, ever solve a quadratic by graphing. Unless the directions say solve by graphing. Okay? Square roots. That's what we did yesterday. You're going to solve a quadratic by square roots when b equals 0. Think about that. There was no x.
Why can't you?
There was no x there yesterday.
Why can't you do it when
Because then you have an x, and you can't take the square root of x. You can only take the square root of x squared. I mean, you can, but guess what the square root of x is, Kevin?
there's
No,
y?
no. Square root of x is the square root of x. It doesn't simplify at all.
So just
Think
be
about
that.
Now, fourth way is completing the square. Completing the square is very, very important in Algebra 2. You were going to spend maybe a whole half a semester on conic sections in Algebra 2. Conic sections are awesome. You need to know how to complete the square in conic sections, and to solve quadratic things, it works every single time. There's just a lot of work involved.
Okay.
There is a fifth way, which we're going to learn next week.
Quadratic formula.
The quadratic formula, very good. The quadratic formula is that goofy formula that I have on that silly yellow shirt that I wear every once in a while.
You put
was 6.
That's a 5.
That's a 5.
Oh, it was like
Math
6.
teacher can't count well. Well, I just have bad handwriting now. It is a 5. The quadratic formula also works every single time, and I would imagine you guys will use that a lot once you learn it. Again, kids are always like, why don't you just teach us that one? You got to know all these 5 ways. All right, before we solve by completing the square, what you have to do is turn trinomials into perfect square trinomials. $10 if you could tell me what a perfect square trinomial is.
Oh,
The formula thing?
Yes. Go ahead, Kev.
A squared plus or minus 2ab plus b squared.
Okay, Kevin.
A squared
Yeah, thanks, Kevin.
plus 2ab or minus 2ab. The first plus or minus sign could be plus or minus 2ab plus b squared. Now,
I was thinking about the
you
differences.
guys, I say this to kids every 2 years when we get to this point. You have to complete the square. That is your job. Okay? So, once you complete the square and make it a perfect square trinomial, it can be factored very easily. Oh gosh, that's weird.
Okay.
You will factor it, and then we're going to be able to solve it. All right, here's the deal. Everything revolves around when you get your homework tonight. Write this at the top. A squared plus or minus 2ab plus b squared. It is always plus at the end. That's a perfect square trinomial. It factors into a, if it's plus, it's plus, if it's minus, b quantity squared. We did perfect square trinomials before when we did factoring. Does everybody agree with that? Yeah. Now, it gets tricky. And here's why. Guys, in the formula, it's a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Haven't we talked about the coefficients in standard form being a, b, and c?
Yeah.
They're not the same.
Oh, God.
Let me say that again. The coefficients a, b, and c are not the same as a and b in this formula. And last period I had a really hard time with that fact. But, so just remember, they're not the same when we talk about it. All right, now here's the deal.
We're different.
Here's the deal.
Oh.
A squared. In this first problem, does everybody agree that a squared is really x squared?
Yeah.
Okay. The first piece has to be a perfect square. Last period. First, what if it's not?
Great question.
It's
Only
not.
one is.
Listen, if the first piece is not a perfect square,
Your trinomial is not a perfect square.
it's not a perfect square trinomial. You can't do what we're doing.
There's only one.
Okay? So, first piece has to be a perfect square. Don't blurt this out if you know it.
First piece.
Start thinking. If a squared is x squared, what is a? Don't blurt it out.
Okay.
If a squared is x squared, somebody raise your hand and tell me what a is. It's an easy question. Sophia?
Square.
No.
Kevin.
No.
Kevin. Come on. Come on.
Nico?
Square root of x.
No.
I'm so,
my
you're
gosh.
so
You're
close.
close though. You're closer
I
than
got
Sophia.
this. Kevin.
Kevin?
What?
X.
That was like.
Everybody, take the square root of a squared, which in this case is x squared,
Okay. Why?
and jot it down up the side. X. So, this is tricky. Does everybody agree that a equals x in this
Yeah.
problem?
Yeah, but why?
Quit saying variables.
Yeah, but X.
Because look, x squared is a squared, so that means a is x. Okay? So, does everybody agree a is x?
Yeah.
Which variable in this formula do we not know the value of?
B.
B. We don't know what b is. That's the blank.
Oh, because A is
Right.
X.
A is x. So now, here's my question. 2 times a times b will be 6x.
Yeah.
Does everybody agree with that?
Well,
2ab, forget about signs. Don't worry about signs right now. 2ab equals 6x. We now know that a is x. So 2 times x times what equals 6x?
yeah.
What is the question mark that would make that
3.
true?
3. So C is 3.
Not C.
B is 3.
B is 3. And look how I did that.
Use the vowel.
2AB, but instead of using B, I used a question mark. I know that. So B is a 3 because if I put a 3 there, 3 times 2x makes 6x.
So it's negative 4 on the next
Hold on. Also, you just keep saying random things that don't make any sense.
Yeah, what
B
is
equals
that?
3.
Yeah.
B squared goes there.
9.
9.
Oh my god.
Wait. And guess what you guys just did?
We used.
We made a trinomial per.
You completed the square.
Oh, you.
You completed the square. Now, let's factor it. This thing is a perfect square trinomial. It factors into, since it was a plus 1, it's going to be A plus B. We know A and we know B. It factors into x plus 3 quantity squared.
But what's the plus or minus
A
for?
form of circle.
Great question. If it's plus, it's plus.
Oh, if it was negative 3.
If it's minus, it's minus. The last piece will always be plus.
Cool.
Again, hand went up right away, last period. What if it's minus at the end?
Never is.
It ain't a perfect square trinomial. You don't have to worry about it.
Sean.
Sean.
Can't you just take half the middle and then
Squared. Boom! Sean caught onto it faster than anybody else.
I literally said that.
Probably.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what you said?
Problem 8,
No.
2
That's what Alex
is
said
4,
right away.
negative 4.
Got it. That's what you said. That's not what I heard. But that was very smart then, Al.
Everybody
And then
realized
Here's the
why.
deal. Don't say it. Whenever, now I'm going to confuse everybody. The coefficient of x squared, which in standard form we know to be a,
1.
not the same a that we've been talking about. Whenever a is 1, b will always be half of that middle term.
That makes perfect sense.
That's what Sean said. That's what Al said. So, what's 8 divided by 2?
It's negative 8.
Don't worry about the signs,
Why?
because the signs are going to come into play when we
We already know the sign.
we already know the signs.
Oh, because it always has to be plus.
It's gonna be plus at the end.
Right.
Ha-ha.
Now, somebody square 4 for us.
How about
16?
Whenever a is 1, b is half of the middle term. Because, I'm not even going to write that for you. All right. Is anybody smart enough to factor that bad boy?
Yeah, I can do it.
Yeah.
Come on. What do you call my name?
Chupinski, factor it. All you got to do is know what a and b are in each problem. We know b is 4. It's the square root of 6. A is the square root of x squared. So what's a in this problem? X. Be a little more confident, Natalie. A equals x.
I gotta come on ahead.
Okay? So, can you factor it yet? Henry, help her out.
X plus 4 quantity squared.
I'm going to hurt you.
Minus.
X minus 4 quantity squared. Guys, always look at your first sign. That will tell you whether it's plus or minus. Okay? Next one. A is 1, so we're just going to take half of the middle term, which is actually the other b, not the b that's in this b squared, but b is in standard form. So what's half of 10?
You don't have to show any work.
You do have to show work. You have to write all this stuff down.
I don't know what stuff done.
I don't know how to do the
Oh, you have to write all of that
All you have
down?
to do is 10 over 2 equals.
If you don't know how to show 10 divided by 2,
I don't know how to do that blue word.
oh, you're going to have to do that in the next one.
Yeah, I don't know what the heck. that
Yeah,
is.
why do we have to write that? Why can't we just like use what Sean said? Take half of.
I
That's
did.
what Kevin
Half of-
did.
Yeah,
And Kevin
that's all you have to do?
the
Yes.
Table.
Oh,
You said we have to do that blue
Oh,
stuff.
okay.
No, that'll be on when A becomes other than 1, there's a lot of work to stop. But you will be amazed at how fast you catch on to the pattern. Anyways, Sean, square B for us.
B squared.
Wait, I missed it. I
10
just didn't
divided by
You can
2
get
squared.
Sean the translator.
For those of you watching at home, Mr. Pansing is banging his head against a wall right now.
Sean,
It's 10
square
divided
B.
by
I've just capped it for like 3 years now. So-
So, 25.
That one? Oh, I wasn't even sorry.
Bang your head again.
Factor it, Sean.
X plus 5.
Quantity
We have to
squared.
show work.
Sean.
Henry.
Don't say it again.
Quantity
You're just annoying me on
squared.
purpose, Nico. It's funny, but I don't appreciate it.
Quantity squared.
All right. What's
Okay, Kevin.
half of 22?
11. 11.
So that means 11 is B. Okay.
And 11
Square it.
squared is 121.
121.
And then we go into
No, I
the
wanna
other
factor
box. and we
Factor it.
X minus 11 quantity squared.
When you get your homework tonight, guys, jot that down at the top of your homework. Oh yeah, you got it right now. Maybe if you want to go to your homework sheet, write down the general formula for perfect square trinomials and how it factors.
I already did it.
Okay, if you haven't done. Now, somebody say something intelligent about perfect square trinomials.
I got really good.
Say one, Kev.
They're perfect squares.
Which parts are perfect squares? That's where I was trying to go.
First and last.
Ah, the first and the last are always perfect squares. If they're not, you don't have a perfect square trinomial.
And forget about it.
Okay? Now, here's the deal. If you can fill this in, you're a genius. All right, you can change an expression in the form of x squared plus bx. Now we're going back to that whole a and b standard form junk.
Why
Okay?
can't you just use other variables?
I know we should have used other variables with you guys, but that's just the way they do it.
They should use
Into
Greek
perfect square. Bye. Here's what Sean and Alex said. By taking half of b, okay, we take half of b, squaring it, and adding it, because it's always adding at the end. So, here's my question. You guys know this is C being in the blank. But in a perfect square trinomial, is anybody smart enough to figure out what it is in terms of B?
Got it.
I think you got it.
B squared.
No, close.
Oh,
X squared.
B quantity squared?
Look, B was 6, but that wasn't 36. It was 9. So what do you do to B, Kev, to get the 9?
Oh, you add half of the.
Take half of it and square it. So, in a perfect square trinomial, guys, it's B divided by 2 quantity squared.
How is he even close?
Because you just squared B. You forgot to take half of it. You're kind of like halfway there. So, C really equals half of B quantity squared.
Oh, we ever
On a
B
perfect square
squared.
trinomial only.
B squared will be
All right,
4.
doesn't matter, guys, if it's positive or negative at the very beginning.
But doesn't the last part have to be
No.
positive?
Just know that if it's negative, it's going to be minus in your factored form. If it's positive, it's going to be a plus in your factored form. Basically, you take half of B and square it. Okay? Now, they do get more difficult. Turn it to the back. There's always a kid who, like right away, they're like, how come it's always even numbers here? What happens if B is an odd number?
Good
That's
question.
You can't take half.
It goes home.
Let's use fractions.
No, definitely not decimals.
You always have
Sean.
Okay? And
Definitely not decimals.
leave things, guys, improper. It'll be to your advantage to leave things improper. All right? We got a whole set of where the coefficient of x squared is 1, so we're just going to take half of b.
Uh-oh.
What's half of 9?
4 and
4
a
and
half.
half.
You guys did not write down that word improper yet.
I did.
Oh.
9 halves.
Guys, put a 2 underneath it. b equals 9 halves. Think about it. Half
Well,
of
you
9
just
is
square
9
it.
halves. Now, what is b squared then?
27 halves. Or wait, no, that was way wrong.
81.
81 fourths.
81 fourths. You got to square both the bottom, the top, and the bottom. So 81 fourths completes the square. Is anybody smart enough to factor it?
Oh gosh.
And believe it or not, the factors are staring right at you. What are the
That's here, let me do it.
factoring?
Got it.
Sean, give it a shot.
X plus 81 over 4.
No.
No.
Let me do it.
X plus 4.
X plus 9 halves, quantity squared.
Oh,
Nico, do not rely on your calculator too much. Use improper
It's
fractions.
just
Seriously.
B, not B squared.
Seriously. And if you squared this binomial, you would get the perfect square trinomial that we started with. Okay? All right, what's half of b
-1.
times -1? -1 half. Well, you don't worry about your sign. I don't really worry about signs. Negative a half times -1. To take half of a number, you can multiply it by a half.
Why times by -1?
Because b is negative.
Don't you go, what was it?
1 divided by 2?
B over 2 squared.
Not yet. Now square 1/2.
1/4.
1/4. There's always a kid that squares a half. I love this one.
1.
This is under work. Well, square a half and it equals 2/4. Then they reduce it back to 1/2. Genius. Okay. Now factor it. Albano, can you factor it? X minus a half, quantity squared. The b is what goes, once you find out what b is, it goes right into your factored form. Right?
I got this one.
What is a half? What's a half divided by 2? If you have half a pizza, you divide it in half.
1/4.
It equals 1/4. So b is 1/4.
Then
Square it,
a
Kev.
squared is 1/16.
Factor it.
X plus 1/4 quantity squared.
This stuff works with fractions too.
Can I do this one?
We had a big argument about what half of 2/9 was last period.
1/3. So you just gotta square.
That's what they said. It's wrong.
How's that?
Wait, what do you say?
They said 1/3. That's what they did say last period.
It's 1/9.
It's 1/9.
Oh yeah, it is.
Right. I get how you say
That was
1/3.
That was dumb. Yeah, it's obvious.
It wasn't dumb.
It's obviously 1/9 though.
Okay. So if you're not sure how to get that, 2/9 times it by a half, because timesing by 1/2 is the same thing as dividing by 2. Believe it or not. Right? So it equals 1/9. Square 1/9. Factor it.
X minus 9 squared.
Quantity squared. So it does work with fraction. This work on the side, guys, is what you need to be showing for your work for your homework.
Oh, wait, all you do is just square B.
But what if the leading coefficient
Well, that's
is
what B.
not
Look
1?
at what's the last piece?
What if you're not one?
Yeah, you just square B.
B squared.
Fancy.
What is the
What if
middle
the leading
two
coefficient
and
is not 1?
Okay.
Like 15.
What's a?
1.
Well, and the x. So it's
So X.
1x times 2 times what's b?
Those socks are real great. Yes.
No, b is 1/9.
Yeah.
So 2.
Yeah, it's bad.
What's 1 times 2
Half game back.
times 1?
How much would I bet if they do good this season? There's gonna
It
be like
always
eight
makes the
people
middle
like,
term.
I've always been a Cubs fan.
The middle term is always 2 times a times b. Alright. When it gets
Yeah,
when the
yeah.
leading coefficient is not 1, when the other a is not 1, then you have to. That's the work you have to show, like on that first one that we talked about. So 9x squared.
Yeah.
Your next two. 9x squared plus 12x plus something to make it a perfect square trinomial. Okay? Someone raise their hand and tell us what a is in this problem.
They're all
Not the a coefficient of the x squared, but a being
X.
the square root of a squared.
36.
What's a in this problem?
9x.
Don't blurt it out. Just raise your hand, guys. It is not 9x.
Oh,
Guys, a squared is 9x squared. A is the square root of a squared. So what is a in this problem?
3.
no.
Quinlivan, 3x. That's
I
where
said I
a.
was thinking
A
that.
is the square root of a squared. Now, the middle term,
Which is 12.
2 times a times b, has to be 12x. The middle term has to be 12x. But we now know a, so I'm going to go 2 times 3x times what makes 12x? Don't blurt it out if you know it. But everybody figure out what that question mark is.
Oh,
2
come
times
on.
3x, because that's what A is, times B, I put a question mark there, makes 12x. What's the question mark? Come on, somebody besides McNulty and Cubine, because you guys always are blurting out. Henry. 2.
But basically, I can run pattern.
Henry, you're always bored now.
What variable is 2? B.
I get from pattern.
You know, Prada?
What number goes in the blank here? What's B squared?
4.
And what did you guys just do?
Complete the square.
You completed the square.
You.
Now, here's where it gets tricky. Factoring.
Oh,
I
gosh.
think I can. Oh, I got it.
What do you think it is, Olson?
Do you?
3x plus 2 quantity squared.
3x plus 2, quantity squared.
He does.
All right, Mr. Sidaro, what pattern did you see? 'Cause you said you saw a
I
pattern.
found
Listen,
pattern.
Sidaro always makes good connections.
To find A, you find the greatest one.
Ooh, I wonder if that works.
First fish.
Well, to find A, why don't you just take the square root of A squared?
I know.
Can't you just find the greatest common
I think so. Look at the last one.
I've never thought about that.
All of them.
We'll see. All right, let's try the next one.
Ow.
Everybody figure out what A is. It all starts with A, because Melissa, what's A? 4x. Now ask yourself,
No.
2
No.
times 4x times what makes 40x?
I got it.
See if you can do that, people. What's the question mark? Quinlivan?
5.
I got 5. What does that mean 5 is? It's B. Very good. Square B. I want to know what B squared is. 25. That's and guys, what'd you guys just do?
The square.
I
You
got the factor.
completed
form.
the square.
I got the factor.
Factor it, Sarah.
4x minus 5.
Beautiful. Guys, it's A plus or minus B quantity squared. Once you find A and B, this stuff rolls. See if you can do the next 2. You're doing great.
So how can I do this one?
You guys are catching on to this.
I walk you through 4x.
It's hard to get people.
It's hard to get B. It takes thinking.
Got it. Stuff's easy now. There's birds everywhere.
Yeah, Briggs, where you at?
Yeah, birds.
What are you doing? Get the next one done if you're done with that one.
Oh, good.
Madeline B, what'd you get for B in the third problem down?
We only have a minute.
7. Very good. Guys, square it. Madeline,
Oh, that makes sense.
she just completed the square.
So easy, yo.
2x plus 7, quantity squared. All right, guys, we got 1 minute.
Wait, this
You're-
one's hard.
Wait, forget about that last one. What if the middle term's missing?
Find it.
You square root the 16 and times 2.
Well, and this one, yeah. Guys, look. Does everybody agree that A equals x and B equals 4?
Yeah.
So what's 2 times x times 4? 8x. So you got to use this whole logic system, guys. You guys got 18 problems for homework.
Hold on, can I see?
Everybody say goodbye.
Bye.